Hello, everyone. Welcome to Satsang on this beautiful, cool September 16th, 2018. Um, so good to have you all here. We're getting started here as people are arriving. Hey, GP from Soundscape Central. Glad to have you with us. Please, from Dorset, England. Thank you. I mean, I really love hearing where people are from. It's very valuable to me. I love the fact that the majority of people are outside of my country. I mean, the most people in any one country are in the U.S., but it's not. This is not the not the only country that people know me from. Hello, GP. How are you? From Popey? I'm very good, Popey. How are you? Michael B. Don't tell the date time. Flight too fast. Time flies too fast. Sorry about that. That's the first time I've ever done it. I have no idea why I did that. It's 9 p.m. here in England. Yeah, it's 1 p.m. here in Seattle, Washington. Motorcyclists from Holland. Pam from Norfolk, UK. Marlene is from Alamo, Texas. Remember the Alamo? So welcome everybody to Satsang. Miss B is hi from Landudno, which I have. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly. Landudno. Chrissy is from New Zealand. Hi there. Hope you're recovering well, G. Yes, I am. Yeah. Funny, it's just kind of persisting. You can hear there's still a little bit of congestion in my nose. Patricia says, hi, everyone from Austin. Hello, Patricia. Welcome, Austin, Texas. Good old USA. Wonderful, everyone. So good to hear you. Spread the love. Barbara, first question from Sweden. I am, God is. Who created God? Very interesting question. I'll save that for a minute as people are arriving. As always, I encourage people to bring questions to Satsang that they don't ask anywhere else, right? Existential questions, the questions about the nature of reality, who's God, the first principle, the logos, questions about what it takes to actually go free in our modern world, questions about how to interact with in our modern world, which is demonstrably, self-evidently insane. I mean, it's insane. The way we treat each other, the barbarity, the wealth inequality. It is simply crazy. It is crazy beyond belief. And to me, the answer to all of these problems that confront us, and the problems are almost too big for us to solve. They've gone beyond what the mind can grasp. There's too many variables, too many. Technically, all the problems the world is facing right now in terms of climate change and the use of resources and feeding and taking care of people, all of that's a piece of cake to fix. Right? What's not so easy to fix, and so far has proven to be obstinate, is simply the ego's insistence on doing it its way. This ego's insistence on competition over collaboration and cooperation. Its insistence on hierarchy instead of community. Its insistence on the focusing of power rather than the distribution of power. And it is, well, the people with the egos most interested in power are the ones that seek the material power, the unenlightened masculine power, which is hierarchical. It is all about enforcement. It's all about making rules. It's about keeping people in line. There's no mercy in it. There's no kindness in it. It's about winning over somebody else. And it is the most primitive form of control and power there is. I mean, it's the brute strength. It's the young alpha male, right? You know, because he can beat up the other alpha males. He's other males. He becomes the alpha male. That instinct is still within human beings, but we've completely reached the point where we can subordinate that to a deeper wisdom and deeper insight. Yeah, some of it's still there, but just because it's there doesn't mean it has to run the show. And so I really invite the kinds of questions that want to pierce deeply into the real structure of things. I'm not one of these people that teaches metaphysics so that you can have everything for yourself and leave everybody else out of the picture. I'm not somebody who says, well, they're having their experience and they're attracting those things into their own lives. It's like bullshit. Please get off my back. I'm really tired of the completely self-centered self-help movement that took root in the 80s. And it's no accident that self-help movement grew at the same time the Ronald Reagan era years, where there was this dismantling of regulations, and it was just a free fall. It was every man for themselves. Make as much and get as much as you possibly could, and that's kind of persisted. There has to be. You cannot be fully spiritually mature and simultaneously ignore the needs of your neighbors and your brothers and those who are suffering. You can't do it. They're completely and totally incompatible with one another. So I really invite questions that have that kind of stirring within it. And especially because we're confronting a time, right? As I mentioned before, the things that we're struggling with, the things that the world is struggling with now, are bewildering. I mean, just trying to get anybody to agree on anything, get people to be truthful, just the level of surveillance technology, the level of weaponry we have, the level of sophistication of propaganda. It's just bewildering. How could any reasonable human being come up with any kind of solution for this? Well, the answer is we can't. You know, it was Albert Einstein who said so beautifully, you cannot solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created it. And so we need to step into a different level of consciousness. It doesn't mean that we can't do it. It doesn't mean that humanity can't go beyond its childish adolescence and, finally begin to start to mature. It certainly can. The answer is not going to come from the centers of power. It's not going to come through shifting just a tweak of a system here and there. It's going to be very grassroots. It's going to come from an explosion of individual creativity, and it has to start with us. It has to start with you. It has to start with the awakening of it within you, and then letting that expand outwards. And so these questions, even questions that don't apparently have any answer whatsoever, need to be asked, because once they are asked, there's a certain kind of energy of the entire universe is cooperating in this. We're not isolated. You're just not this little person. The most complex structure, the most dense and rich structure in the entire universe is the human cerebral cortex. And which means that the richest experience being had in the entire universe is the experience you are having right now. So I urge you all to really honor the mystery of your own minds, the mystery of your own beings, and Stretch yourself out to the deepest questions that you can possibly come up with. Unmute. No, I don't want you muted. Make sure everybody can still hear me. All the signals are working. Yes, very good. Very, very, very good. So that said, let's say we have Ishta. It's a beautiful day from Louisiana. Thank you. The city, city of not the fort. Marlene says, my comment about the Alamo. She doesn't live in the fort. Good. And Kaufman can't get video or sound only, but now it's good. Good. River Wellness says, hi, GP. It's so good to see you again. Thanks for being here. Julie in the UK. Soundscape, every time you move your arm, it's making awful noise. Glad to see you tonight, my man. Hopefully you answer some deep questions tonight. Hopefully I will. Oh, so getting a little short in the system. I see. Hold on a second. Hold your ears because let me just mute. I've had that happen before, and it shouldn't happen now. I had just kind of readjusted the microphone. Thank you for pointing that out to me. Spiral Dynamics says, hi from France. Hi, Spiral. Okay, we have a question already, and I invite them right away. And this comes from Barbara in Sweden. She says, I am, God is. Who created God? Well, first off, it depends on what you regard as God. If you're talking about the mythological God that most people believe in, we created that. We created that God. We took all of the very best of humanity, and not being able to own it for ourselves, we projected it out on some kind of being, but then made that being so far superior to us and us so bad that we set up a hostile relationship between what in fact we ourselves had created. But that's not the God I think you're referring to. Even within those traditions that hold God to be like that, there are these whispers, these appearances of a depth of insight that has popped up in people. And one of the most profound of the insights that took place came to Moses in the burning bush when God announced himself, herself, as I am that I am. Now, most people are just, they've taken their old view of God and, oh, God said I am, something or other. Interesting. But when we really look close, what was discovered in that moment, what Moses saw crystal clear, was that the true nature of God was the sense I am. That burning bush was not something that appeared out there. It was something that was in here. If you look at the original Hebrew, it means something like mental turmoil. And we've all felt that burning inside. I mean, if we refer to a burning question, something inside, a deep yearning. Something inside us just burns. It just smolders. It wants to be satisfied. And yet that burning doesn't consume us, and it just never runs out of juice until it gets our attention. And that's exactly what happened with Moses. He said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush burns, but is not consumed. And when he did that, a voice from the middle of the burn, right in the middle of his inner turmoil, when he turned towards it rather than ran away from it, right from the center of that, he heard a voice that said, Moses, take off your shoes. You're standing on holy ground. He was in the presence of the reality of being itself, not just his own being, but your being, my being, the same I am that is at the root of you. That announcing of himself as the I am means that the I am is the sense of being that we all possess. That is what then got called God, or Yahweh, Jehovah, Allah, Krishna, all sorts of different names for it. But what it is the simple, ever-present sense of being within us. Who created that? Nobody. This is the mystery. It just is. There's no beginning and no end. That sense of being, which is your being, has no beginning and it has no end. Everything else has a beginning and an end. Everything else is an appearance of that. The I am is what is. Everything else is what appears. And yet, in that appearance, the nature, the infinite nature of that I am is known. So it appears as me sitting here in this room with a mic that sometimes makes noise, right? It's you sitting in France or in India or wherever you happen to be sitting, or in the Alamo with David Bowie. It's the same I am. So the manifestation is infinite, but the essence, the centralness of it, the being in all of the expression, the isness, that which gives it being, is one and is timeless. Even the word beginning, created, ending has absolutely no meaning here. It is, there's no creation. The best way I can put it is simply God, or the sense I am, pondering its own nature. Does that answer it for you? Who wrote that? Let's see. Let me go back here for a second. Who wrote that? Barbara. Does that answer it for you? One of the most difficult things for the mind to grasp and to accept is timelessness, something having no beginning. I mean, all the objects of sense, all the objects that we normally experience during everyday life have a beginning and an end, some very quick. they endure for a bit and then they go away. But that which is beholding them, the consciousness that is seeing them come and go, right? Does that come and go? This is the question we take into ourselves. I can tell you, no, it doesn't, right? But if you just believe that, it's just another belief and it isn't going to do you much good and it's not going to be able to take much in the way of roots. I invite you to explore it for yourself. Notice everything in your life has come and gone. And everything that's come and stayed is going to go. Everything. Nothing sticks around. Yet there is something that notices it, that it came, and noticed that it went. And whatever that is, it's not essentially what you are. It can't be, because if it was, when it left, you'd left. You'd be gone. But you're not. You're still here. So whatever it is we experience is not essentially what we are. And so our attention has to become really absorbed and interested in, what am I? What is this, which, as far as I can tell, does not come and go? Now you might say, well, it was born here and it's going to die, right? Okay. Right. Let's leave that question for later, right? Really, all you can say about being born is, I don't remember. Was there something before that? I don't remember, right? I was told there wasn't. I was told that this was the beginning. I believe that. But when I actually look at my own experience, the best I can come up with is, I don't remember. And what's going to happen after death? The best I can come up with is, I don't know. But let's look at what we do know. From here, to where we are now, wherever that might be, because we don't know where the end point is. You know, we didn't come with an expiration date, so we don't really know when that's what's going to happen. Within the context that I actually know, relative to my life, this sense of I has never changed. It has never come and gone. How could it? I have never come and gone. My thoughts have come and gone. My feelings have come and gone. My sensations have come and gone. My ideas have come and gone. My beliefs have come and gone. Relationships have come and gone. Memories have come and gone. Associations have come and gone. My preferences have come and gone. Every experience I've ever had has come and gone. I have not. I have remained. I have been unmovable. At least within the context of my life, I have been changeless, which is to say, timeless, because all time is a measurement of change. You can't measure, you can't measure change according to me, because I haven't changed. Everything I've experienced has changed. I have not. Now, that may or may not convince you that it started at birth and it's going to end, that it didn't start with birth and not going to end with death. But I see that as being some rather powerful evidence pointing to at least the possibility that it might. That maybe birth was something I experienced. And maybe death is just something else I'm going to experience. And maybe another birth, or maybe another dimension. Who knows? Who knows? It's not important. What is important is that no matter what I experience, I'm still going to be there. And this is where the attention needs to go. This is where I'm rocking here just to make sure that the mic is still okay. Because I have another one. If I have to, I'll switch it. So let me know if the mic gets annoying again. I think I just have a short I have to fix. So does that answer it? I mean, I went above and beyond the end, but I want to convince you that that this isn't just belief. There's evidence for this. The evidence is your own life. And this is where we always have to look for the evidence, not externally, because externally the evidence is always changing, right? We have to look for the one place that, at least relative to our life, hasn't changed. And if that doesn't qualify for the I am, the timeless, the changeless, the creator, I don't know what does. So it's not out there. You know, the most mysterious thing I have to work with is my own being. The most remarkable, strange, bewildering thing there is the reality of my own being. I mean, why does anything exist at all? My hope as a teacher and as a facilitator, I guess, I don't even like the word teacher. My hope is that I inspire you into an appreciation of the mystery that will just absorb you to the point where you just go after this stuff yourself, because it's like, holy shit, this is amazing. We just think, oh yeah, this exists. Wait a minute, why does anything exist? Even if you go along with the scientific view, the Big Bang, right? This time, something for no reason whatsoever, this highly concentrated blob of energy, no bigger than a teaspoon, highly, highly concentrated, without cause, by the way, it's the first scientific miracle, exploded. And exploded in such a way that it cooled at exactly the right rate so that all of the elements that make up the universe got created. Everything had to happen absolutely perfectly. I mean, a thousandth of a degree off in temperature, or a thousandth of a second cooling slower or faster, and there may have been a completely different universe or no universe at all, just like an explosion, like a bomb going off, and there's just a mess. But instead, this happened. Now, We go, yeah, it was the Big Bang and this, that. We kind of like gloss, wait, stop, hold on. I mean, we're talking about everything: butterflies, quasars, cockroaches, lampshades, your Uncle Bill, who voted for Trump, right? I mean, all of it came from that. So we stop, hold it, time out. Can we just let ourselves get absorbed in the utter wonder and mystery of this? It's what, like, it. If I just stop for a second, I just kind of go, oh, what? And then right at the heart of it, right in the center of it, is you and me. This aware intelligence, this aware, conscious, thinking beingness that is pondering all of this. I mean, we're at the center. I mean, where did the Big Bang Theory come from? Us. It's, this is how we're trying to, it's all coming out of this incredible beingness that is right at the heart of ourselves. So that's my hope, to just kind of inspire everyone to see the wonder of this, and let the piercing of that mystery become just overwhelming to you. It just becomes, I have to do it. Can it be done? I have no idea. Can anybody fathom it? I have no idea. Right? But it certainly engages me. So hopefully that answers your question, Barbara. But she says a little bit, what about the absolute? The absolute, let's put it very simply. The absolute is simply that which is. You can go no further. It's not relative to anything else, right? Everything in creation that we experience is relative to something else: tall to short, male to female, dark to night, up to down. Nothing has inherent meaning in and of itself. I'm like 5'8", I think 5'7", right? And if I'm in a band of pygmies, I'm tall. I'm a giant, right? But if I'm hanging out with a basketball team, I'm a total shrimp, right? So so what am I? Am I tall, or am I short? Or am I medium? Or am I neither? Or some combination? None of those. Inherently, none of those. It's only in relationship to something else. So the universe, as we know it, is all relative. So there must be some point that is not relative to something else. Something that is completely self-defined, self-aware, self-illuminating, and is changeless. Whatever that is the absolute. I'm presenting to you a candidate for the absolute, is this sense I am. Not the thought I am, not even the feeling I am. Because even the thought and the feeling of existence could only arise when existence is there first. So that which is prior to everything, prior to even the sense of being, is the absolute. That which is relative to nothing, depends on absolutely nothing, is changeless, is eternal, is self-knowing, is self-luminous. It doesn't need another light to illuminate it any more than the sun needs to turn on a light at night. And so let's not project upon these ideas of absolute and stuff this special state. I propose the candidate for God, for the I am, for the absolute, for the pure awareness, for the undifferentiated consciousness, is the everyday common sense of being you walk around with all the time. That fits the bill. And that is the absolute, so that you can say, I am that. Of course, who else but the I am could say I am? That which just appears can't say it. It can echo it, but there's not going to be anybody there. It's like the mirror can move its lips, but there's nobody there. A recording can capture my voice and put it out there, but there's nobody there. The point from which everything else arises, that which is the I am, and only that can say I am. So that must be what you are. That to me was what Moses realized. The I am was his I am. And that bush stopped burning, and instead Moses took on a life mission. And what was the life mission? A life mission of helping others. In this case, liberating his people. It's a great subject. Obviously, you got me started on this. How long have I spent? Like almost half an hour, on this. So clearly, you hit a hot button for me there, Barbara. Thank you. Hello, Sarah. Hi from France. Soundscape. Making a noise when you move. No worries. Yeah, sounds good now. Got it. Good. And I'm sure with a name like Soundscape, you must have something to do with music or sound production, so you're sensitive to that stuff. So I totally get it. Michael B. I think it's Michael B. or Michelle B. Michel. Michelle and Michael B. Anyway, like my friend's doctor in Cuba, $1 a day, wonderful survivor, or Venezuela, millions flying the country. Fleeing, yeah, being sucked out of the country. I'm not sure if that comment was in relationship was a response to, because I just went off for a half an hour. So I'd like to understand the maybe it was to the part where the things are relative, right? Yeah, everything's relative to something else. The happiest countries in the world are not the wealthiest. by all the measurements of happiness, which is emotional well-being, a sense of a future, connection, closeness to family, how many times a day they laugh. The wealthy countries do not qualify. We have been so indoctrinated into wanting more and more and more and more that we cannot enjoy what we have. Whereas countries that don't have a lot don't have that problem. They've discovered a completely different way of doing it. Hassan says, hi from Malaysia. Hello, Hassan. So good to have you. Alex Bidel or Biddle? Either way, Alex. Hi, Alex. What do you think about the physical realm of existence being more real than what appears to us? If you're talking about, I think you're talking about the substructure, the substratums of existence, what appears to us on this level, a particular form, right, is simply one level. It's simply how it all appears to this level of consciousness, to this means of perception. Whereas, the body is actually made up of hundreds of trillions of cells, or 100 trillion cells, 70 to 100 trillion. Each one of those cells is made up of billions of molecules. Each one of those molecules made up of is made up of, God knows how many atoms. Molecules, a combination of the atoms, and on it goes. And it's made up of something. 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 It's made up. So at every single one of those levels, reality is different. The atom does not know it's participating in a molecule, let alone in a cell, let alone in having satsang on a Sunday afternoon. No clue, right? At that level of existence, at that level of consciousness, if it's conscious, there's no sense of it. So, but I always hasten to point out, we're looking for what is real. Right. Scientists believe that you discover what is real by examining the material world. The underlying assumption of that, of course, is that there is a material world that exists independent of my perception of it. If you actually take that apart and look at it closely, you find that it is a unprovable assumption. It is science, it's science miracle. You know, well, we're just going to assume this. I can't prove it. I don't know it, but we're going to prove it. The Dalai Lama referred to the idea of matter as a metaphysical assumption and not a scientific fact. We cannot verify the existence of anything outside of our perception because we cannot step outside of our perceptions and look at it. That is simply the reality of our being. And so we assume things exist independent of our perception of it, rather than looking at that which is right in front of our very nose, and that is looking at the nature of perception itself. What if the perceiving of a thing was the thing? What if the perception was the very substance of that which is perceived, and not matter, not some conceptual structure out there that that nobody's actually ever seen? It is an assumption projected upon experience. It is a powerful and deeply held belief about experience, an attempt to explain the origination of experience. There is a completely different model for doing that. That's the consciousness only model. That's the one that I subscribe to because it makes the most sense to me. There's the most evidence for it. Consciousness is everywhere. Everything I see is through the lens of consciousness. Hey, all the theories about the existence of matter were all produced by consciousness. Right? So it's a strange schizophrenia that the mind produces a theory that explains away itself. I mean, it's like, what? I mean, because to the scientific view, there's no mind, there's no self, there's no person, there's no existence. Right? There's just a bunch of combinations of stuff that are having the illusion of self-existence. So self-existence is not real. There's nothing, there's nobody there having the experience. And of course, that's the thing that everybody kind of scratches their head on. And scientists who are really scientists recognize that consciousness is qualitatively different. You cannot just reduce it to material structures. You can't. It's qualitatively different. And so a different kind of model for understanding consciousness is necessary. But it's difficult because in order to explore consciousness, because it isn't objective, you cannot study it objectively. The scientific method doesn't have any use here. You can't, it's pointless. You cannot use the scientific model to study something that's not objective. So the only place consciousness can be studied is here. And the only one who can study it is you. You have to study yourself. You become the laboratory. You become the scientist. You become the PhD. You become the one, because nobody knows it better than you, because it's what you are. Does that help, Alex? Did I get that right? I'm gonna just scan ahead real quick to see if I got that right. Okay, nothing else. So okay, cool. I hope I touched on that well. I do want to answer questions in depth. I find that towards the end I start speeding up, try to fit a lot of stuff in, and maybe it's better if I just kind of stop, because I really want to inspire you all to become just obsessed with discovering what's actually true. Because if what I'm saying is true, that the real essence of being is consciousness and not matter, then the highest authority, the most powerful, significant authority on the planet to be able to give authoritative, concrete, powerful answers to the questions about the nature of being is you, because you're it. And you don't need to reference anything outside of you. You don't need a bunch of guys in lab coats checking things off a list, because they do not know your experience. They can't. They must come to conclusions from their own direct experience. And our entire education system has taught you to distrust your experience, to just trust your own idea. The religious system do it, the economic system do it, the political system do it, and science does it, medicine does it. Oh, trust your doctor, he knows better than you. They're even condescending about it when you challenge them. Not all of them, but many of them are, right? So I want to encourage you to explore the possibility that the very best person on the planet to answer the question about the nature of being is you. And in fact, you're the only one that can answer it for you. When you do answer it for you, there's a lot of people who are going to want to hear what you have to say about it, because everybody wants to know that. But you will, just like I do, say, I can't tell you directly, because then it would just be objective knowledge. Your mind would just process it. I can point you, though. I can point you to where to look. I can point you to things that you assumed were true and show you they were just assumptions and see where that takes you. And that's why the real spiritual teachers all seem to be kind of approaching it the same way, because it's the only way you can do it, because it has to come from within you, because you're the center of it. You know, you are the I am. And the discovery and the recognition of that, the realization of who that I am actually is, that's so much bigger than who you thought you were, that it's self-realization. The self realizes itself. And from your perspective, you realize that you're not who you think you are. And that's the awakening from the dream. You dreamed you were somebody else, but who was doing the dreaming? There's a friend of mine put lyrics to a piece of music I wrote, and one of the lyrics I really love says, "And if it's true that this is all a dream, who wakes up when it ends?" Hassan. Hello, Hassan. Can you discuss doership? When I'm doing something, am I just moving a thought structure opposed to letting it happen? This is a good one, because there's a hidden assumption in the question. When I am doing something, am I just moving a thought structure? When I am doing something, there's an assumption there that there's an I and that you are doing it, right? There is this is actual measured stuff within the brain and the body. Okay. Here's what actually happens when you do something or make a choice. I will do it in slow motion. I'm going to raise my arm. That's how it happens. The thing happens, and a split second later, it is cognized by the brain, and the story is created about what happened. But because the cognitive part is delayed, it doesn't see it. It doesn't see it when it actually happens. It a little bit later. It just assumes that it's cognitive. It's choosing caused the event, but it didn't. The event happened, and then the idea or story of a choice was the response. The response in the cortex to that. Now, this has actually been measured by MRI and all sorts of stuff, that the part of the brain that does something, and then the part of the brain that fires when a choice is made, the thing always happens first, the choice second. The choice, you're not doing anything. That sense of I am doing is a construct of the mind, a believed story that makes you feel as if you're in control. You're not doing anything. You have no more control over your actions or your thoughts or your feelings than you do over your heart beating, your blood pumping, your food digesting, the chemicals secreting. It is all happening by itself. If that's the case, well then, what is this whole spiritual? What is this about? Well, what it's about is discovering who you actually are. And who you actually are is the consciousness that is aware of it. You are not a person in the body doing stuff, making choices. That's an illusion. It's not real. There's no one there. There's another amazing phenomena about the brain. There's no center to it. There's some filter points that things seem to go through, but there's no actual center. Things happen in the environment. This part of the brain may react to that. Another part of the brain may react to that. We have this illusion that all of these things are coming into this central area, which is me, and I'm going, oh, and making choices about what's happening. It's all happening in different parts. There's no center to the brain. There's no self in the brain. There's no consciousness in the brain. None has been found. In biology, they have a term for it. They could refer to it as a self-organizing system. I have no idea why it is that these cells happen to clump together and specialize, and now they are dancing as if they are a single thing, but nobody's in charge. There's no center to it. Is this blowing your mind sufficiently that you're going to go, what the hell? Or maybe a big what TF? Or as a mysterious AF, like all these little, and there's not what WTAF. I've heard that one too. Yeah. So the whole idea of when I'm doing something, am I just moving a thought structure as opposed to letting it happen? When you recognize that it is all just happening, the first thing that happens is that the ego gets panicky, because the ego fancies itself being in control. Our sense of safety, make sure I don't mess up the microphone here. Sorry, everybody. Making a lot of noise now, I can tell. There we go. What was I talking about? Right. The ego's fantasy is that it has control over things, that it is like making stuff happen. That gives it an illusory sense of control over the environment. Okay, okay. That should be better. I'll just take this thing off for now and drop it behind me. So much for my nice fancy setup. I don't know what that's happening, but I'm going to leave this off now. It's getting warm here. So the idea of control is a fantasy. It was made up by the nervous system in order to feel as if it's in control and had control over its body. And it's no different than, dancing and chanting and waving chickens to make the gods smile on you. I mean, we do not have control. Everything is happening on its own, and there is no center to it. Right? So the discovery of who you actually are is not that you become this, this godlike being. Right? They can do whatever they want. That's the ego's version of awakening or enlightenment or city powers and all of that. What the awakening is that what's actually happening is simply an expression of the one being, and it's totally benevolent. And that all the chaos and discord and conflict and violence has been a product of the belief in an ego, but it doesn't actually exist. There isn't anybody in control. So who you are is not just this person pulling strings and making decisions in your life. All those decisions are just happening. They're happening all by themselves. There's options, a deciding thought, but no decider. Just the deciding thought. And then after the decision is made, the choice gets made, and the mind says, oh, I made a choice. That's just like the next thought or a couple of thoughts down the road. We have no control over that either. You don't know what your next thought's going to be. You can't control it. What we can control is what we choose to believe and where our attention goes. There is something, maybe an interface between all this functioning going on in life and consciousness is simply where our attention goes. That's it. And that you do have control over. Not at first, of course, because your attention just jumps all over the place. But the more you become interested in that which is conscious, in the sense of I am, and less about this and how it's happening, what I can do about it, and or change things or anything like that, the more you're just interested in that sense of I am, like anything else that gets your attention, it's going to expand and grow until finally it just fills the screen and you realize everything is that. There's nothing else but that. So doership from the point of view of consciousness does not exist because there's no doer. Things are just happening. Does that make any sense to you, Hassan? I know it's a big one. Clay Sue says, hi, good place to be on this rainy Sunday. It was raining here too, but the sun's out. Sun's out now, and it's like warming up a little bit. Narcman, in today's tech-addicted life, how can one manage to keep a healthy sleep schedule and maintain it? I always try to sleep at 10 a.m., but I'm not able to maintain the streak for more than 5 days. It's a good one. It's a good one because, yes, we're being constantly bombarded with things that are designed not to just get our attention, but to influence us, and mostly influence us negatively. Influence us to do things that are against our best interest, to really take away from us any active participation in it. They just want to manipulate us. The propaganda meisters understand that we're really not making conscious decisions. That everything is reactive, and they seek to manipulate that reactivity to get us to do what they want us to do. This is the classic ego structure thing going on. So you need to become convinced that not being distracted is more important than whatever message whatever little carrot it's holding out to you. I mean, just bite that carrot enough times to know that it's plastic and that it's empty and everything they offer is hollow and useless. And after a while, you'll stop biting at the carrot. So I'm not able to maintain the streak for more than 5 days simply means your attention has gone back and you still think there's something for you to get there. So what I would say is don't rely on discipline. As you can see, it's not going to work. I would just completely dive into what is it that is grabbing my attention that I've convinced myself is more important than this. I'm saying getting a better sleep is more important to me. And yet I'm consistently deciding to give my attention to that which I've already said is less important to me. So now I'm in the world of ignorance and habit. I'm in the world that I really haven't explored this enough to see how hollow and empty it is and how destructive it is, so that this is clearly the better choice. And I'm also in the world of habit, where this is just kind of sustaining itself. But even the habit, the habit of doing it, the immediate gratification of it is a result of this idea that there's actually something there of value. Explore it, take it apart, take it completely apart and see if there's anything of value for you there at all, until you become convinced that there isn't. And when there isn't, you'll find yourself naturally just recoiling from it. And of course, when you see, if you can go even further to see how destructive it actually is. I mean, some of the stuff I've been reading about about Facebook and the methods that they use. They love controversial stuff. They want there to be polarization, because the more polarized an issue is, the people who respond to that, the more they know about that person. If they give you something to look at or read, some piece of information that's nuanced and balanced, and it's points of view on different sides, and you're going to kind of mull it over and maybe click on some of the links and research differently, they don't know who you are. They have no idea who you are. So they can't profile you and sell advertisers information about you. But if you're reacting passionately about something, God, I hate that, or I'm all for this, or this, impeach Trump, or I hate alt-right, or whatever it is, if it's clear, they go, great. They nail it. They profile with that, and that information is worth billions to them, to advertisers. That's what they're doing. Look at what these places that are distracting your attention are actually doing, and you will turn from them with such disgust. You will sleep peacefully. I guarantee you. You will find that there's nothing that they offer. And I hope I made that case strong enough and virulent enough, because what these sites are doing is evil. Simple as that. It is the evil ego gone crazy. Google has a $600 million a year contract with the CIA to collect information about you. They've just made a deal with the Chinese government where they're going to implement all of the censorship rules of the Chinese government in the search engine, so now they get to be in China and sell their ads there, which is what they want. So they don't give a shit about anybody, right? And in order to do that, they're going to, when you type in something in China to find information about it, they're only going to show you what has been approved. This is the illusion of freedom that has been created in the world. And, this is not a political platform by any means, but let's wake up. There's nothing they have to offer us. So turn from it. Turn from it with all the disgust that it deserves. How's that for an answer, Narkman? Life is a Sketch says, hi from Slovenia. Hi there. Life is a Sketch. SS. Can you say the body is stuck to its destiny? Feels like there's no control. Life is doing it all. Yeah. Except for one thing. There's a beautiful line from Nisargadatta, I've quoted it before, where he said, talking about his awakening, I allow my human life to fulfill its destiny. I remain as I am. When you recognize that who you are is not the body, you'll see that the body is but a set of programmed responses. It's a robot. It's an organic robot that's just going through the motions. And you'll see all destiny is the fulfilling of programming. But now the moment you see that, the moment consciousness recognizes itself as consciousness and that it is not the body, that identification with the body is broken, and therefore the feeding of energy to the pattern of the body is also broken. And what happens? The pattern of the body changes. The destiny of it changes. Now, if there's a desire to change it, you haven't really been free from it yet. Because there's still some kind of preference for the way you like it to go. And preference is part of the program structure. Whereas consciousness, pure awareness, the I am, has no preferences. Everything can be as it is. So without that, there's no energy pushing a particular pattern in a certain way. There's no sense of self around which it dissolves. And so what happens? That organizing principle, which is the egoic structure of the mind, dissolves. And this energy of the body, which is nothing but an organizing principle of energy, begins to organize around something else. Well, what do you think that something else is? It's the true self. That's what a sage is. The sage is simply where the the energy of the body has now organized itself around the sage. And yeah, it's still going to follow the rules of the body. It's going to get old. It's going to get, it's going to get sick. It's going to die, right? That is, it's going to fall apart. But while it's here, it is giving expression to the expressionless. It's giving expression to the true self. So you can say that the awakening is not only a liberation of you from the body, it is a liberation of the body from the egoic mind. So the body, the functioning, life itself becomes liberated. It isn't just, it's now kind of grinding on its own thing, because you'll see that it isn't following any laws other than the laws of the mind. And when the mind is liberated, it is no longer stuck in those same patterns, and those patterns can dissolve. And you'll see that that's all there was to it, was patterns. There was nobody there. And so that's where you could say life is simply doing what it's doing. But what is life? Life is simply the energy flow of the I am. Life is just simply this flow of the expression of the I am. It is simply nothing but the dynamic aspect of consciousness which takes form. Because there's the formless and the form, and they are a unity. They are a oneness. You can't separate them, and the mind can't grasp that. One and many being the same, right? Same, not the same, not both, not different. I mean, it just simply goes beyond what the mind can do. But yet, that is the actual nature of reality. So we see it. We see the empty, void, pure formlessness made manifest as concrete, real forms, right, that are constantly changing, constantly evolving, constantly growing, and then dissolving. But the ground from which they arose, had their life, and then fell back into, has always been the ocean of infinite being, which is one and formless, is the consciousness itself, the I am, the absolute, that which is here before any form, that which barely knows itself. Let's see. G. Goudemont. Did I say that correctly? Great to see you. Thanks for being my spiritual guide. You're very welcome. I have a question. Why do we have the family we have? Well, it's a great question, and believe me, given the childhood that I had, as many of you know, my first memory is hanging upside down on the side of the bed because my mother had tied me into it, which she did for the next 4 years. So you can believe me that, when it began to dawn on me what had actually happened in my childhood, and the emotional impact of the stuff that was going on, it was like, I was asking that question, why in the world? It's like an unfathomable thing. In keeping with the previous question about destiny and all that, there's no big, there's no puppeteer behind all of this. There's nobody, there's no, karmic board that's, deciding the next moves. There's not this place in between lives where you go, oh, I did this wrong. Maybe I needed to do this. So I'm going to reborn like this. I'm going to have this family and soul groups and all that. I mean, maybe that stuff's there. I have no idea. And nobody's actually presented me a reasonable way to approach that didn't involve just a lot of assumptions. And so I have to say, well, maybe but I can't I can't accept that in its truth, because it's just, there's too many contradictions about it. So I look at what I do know. I look at what I can see. And that is that in my particular set of circumstances, put my life on a track that almost guaranteed that certain things were going to get put into place that eventually led to waking up, to seeing through the illusion of it, to seeing that, I get it. Now, did I need that in order to, get to be where I am? I guess so. That's all I can say is, did it need to happen? It happened. right? Was it supposed to happen? I guess so, because it happened, right? That's, to me, it's like, certain things just undergo the formality of actually happening. And so that's all I can say is, if you start asking why, the reason people ask why is because they, what we really want to do is we want to change it, right? We think if we know the cause, why did this happen? I can change it and make it come out to be something different. I mean, I heard it put one way this way, that when you ask a question like, why do we have the family we have? There's actually two questions there. The first question is, why? And of course, why is the question that drives human nature. We want to know why about everything. We want to control the past. And yet when we look, we find the variables are so vast, so huge, that trying to actually piece together why anything happened is just like a complete mind blower. The second question in there is much easier. It's like, do we have the family we have? The answer is yes. So it's a humorous way of putting it, that it's like, don't try to wrap some kind of metaphysical meaning or some great purpose around it. The best I can say, and this is really just kind of faith and not, I can't prove it, and that is, the circumstances seem to be exactly what's needed for you to drive you on your destiny to realize who you actually are. That's the only way I know how to put it. That's the only way it's the only thing that I can find satisfying, because there does seem to be a reasonableness, an intelligence, a point, a meaning to the entire thing. And that's the only thing I can put. I can very well be wrong. But when I rule out all the things that to me are obviously assumptions and unprovable ones, that what I'm left with is just a sense I have of there's an intelligence to life. Things do tend to make sense. The dots do tend to get connected together. And so I just say, okay, there's something behind this. And so why do I have the family that I have? So that I am who I am. And that's the way it is. That's the best I can come up with for you, my friend. Nerdin Paradise, happy Sunday, G, which is Cyrus. I'm not really sure tell me what Nerd in Paradise means sometimes, Cyrus. A couple of messages retracted. I always get curious about those. Somebody says something and then pulls back and decides not to. I'm always curious about those. Hassan, let's see, says, yes, it makes sense. But it's very hard to digest that it's all a happening, except at times of release and surrender. Mostly it feels there is a choice, or I have a choice. Yes, it does feel that way. And that's okay, right? If I choose Rocky Road ice cream over, Cherry Garcia ice cream, it seems like a choice, and call it a choice, call it not a choice. It causes no suffering. It's not a problem. But when we start looking at all the events of our lives, and people even extrapolate, well, you chose this, you chose to have this horrible thing happen to you. It's like, I mean, we're creating suffering. That's what this is all about, right? We're really examining this existentially, not because we want to think of ourselves as being really smart and having all these answers, but because we want to alleviate human suffering and the illusions and delusions that we suffer from, the biggest one being that we are this body and I am the egoic mind. I am all these thoughts that I have, creates just unbelievable amounts of suffering, not only for ourselves, but for everybody else. So, so there is a sense of there being a choice, and that is a habit. And it's a very hard thing to let go of, right? Because what you're really letting go of is the illusion of control. And that makes us feel unsafe. And so the only way that can really happen is if we let go into something bigger, right? If the ego can't do it, the ego cannot do this, right? It's got to hold on to that. And the ego can't release or surrender either. When you talk about accepted times of release or surrender, something bigger than the ego does release and surrender. And what does it feel like? It feels fine, feels peaceful, feels quiet. You don't feel threatened, because the real surrendering comes from the I am, which is never threatened because it's the only thing that actually is. It's the only thing that is immortal. That sense of I am, that sense of beingness, is timeless. It's unaffected by any of it. So there's nothing for it to release. So even this is really hard. It feels as if there's a choice. I want there to be a choice. It's just a construct of the mind. And there's no I actually there saying, I want that. I need that. I'm afraid. It's hard. What's going to happen to me? Notice those are all just thoughts. And that you who are aware of those thoughts are not those thoughts, because they're not there all the time, are they? They come and go. Oh, what's going to happen? I'm making a choice. I'm not making a choice. They come and go. So they're not that important. We need to come to know ourselves as we actually are. And all these pointers are simply to point attention away from what we have thought we were. Poke holes into it and say, look, you think you're this person making choices. Well, guess what? These choices aren't being made. So who are you then? You're not the person making choices. Well, that can go, well, then who am I? Well, okay, look. Right? Don't try to grab onto something else because it's uncomfortable. Yeah, it's uncomfortable. Right? It's like, oh, I don't know who I am. Perfect. From here, you can discover who you are. But you can't discover who you are if you think you already know. So everybody has to pass through this dark night of the soul, this place where I have not got a clue. Everything I thought was true isn't, including me. I don't even, what exists? I don't even know. And now you are standing on holy ground. You are right in the heart of that burning bush. If I can continue with that metaphor. Narkman, thanks for your time, sir. Have a good day. Well, you're welcome. Thank you. Other son says to Hassan, it's a paradox. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. In order to feel like there's no control, there must be the experience of control as well, like the two sides of the same coin. Yes, there's a belief in control, and then the idea that there isn't control creates fear. So you have both of these going on at the same time. Some kind of control appears, sometimes no control appears. It's a good way to put it. Yeah. But there's nothing controlling anything. Things are just happen. There's no central point of control, right? Because when we think of control, we're thinking of something like an act of will. And so we project upon this idea of God, the great puppeteer who is controlling things. Whereas what it's really like is it's things are just kind of growing out of their own nature. I simply am the way I am, the way I act, the way I talk, the things that I'm interested in. It's just the way that I am. I didn't control those. I don't create those. I don't need to control those. So the order of the universe is not control. It's its nature to be ordered and intelligent and formed. Does that make sense? Like the Nisargadatta quote, makes a lot of sense, aka 11020. Yeah, I think so too. Nisargadatta just continues to blow me away. The other son, regardless of the appearance of either, it's still just life happening. Yes, very good. Yeah. And let yourself really sink into that middle place that is neither in control nor out of control. Right? See, the ego likes to think it's control. When it gets challenged, the ego feels it is out of control. But you're not the ego. Both of those are just patterns of thought. You are aware of control. You are aware of out of control. And from this place, you can look closely to see what control really is and find that there's no control. There's only the nature of things as they are, and at that point, if it is its nature, you don't need to control it. You know, you don't need to make the cat purr. It's what they do. So now life takes on a completely different meaning. It's nothing that has to be controlled. You just live because it's what you are. Soundscape Central. Oh, let me turn the mic a little bit more, make sure you can all hear me. We'll watch later or tomorrow. Gotta go. Ask one more question. What practice routine can I do from now on? Self-inquiry, the king, or just go with it casual? GP, you're amazing. Like a second dad. I'm glad to hear that. I kind of like the whole, well, it comes with being an elder, right? The whole dad thing. I mean, it's very gratifying to me to see young men and women, not of my age, coming on here. I'm sure many of you, if not most of you, are substantially younger than I, and I'm just so happy to see this kind of awakening going on. It's wonderful. What kind of practice? Self-inquiry is the king, but it's got to be done correctly. So you need to, you might want to just, drop me a line at some point and tell me what your self-inquiry thing is, and we can check it out, because they can make a lot of mistakes about it, but it can't exist by itself. Self-inquiry is one part of it. It's a twofold path, the path of Vedanta and the path of Tantra. And the Vedanta path is this strict self-inquiry, but the Tantra path is the path of living, of engagement in life, of embodiment of it. So in order for the self-inquiry to work, there needs to be this atmosphere of real self-acceptance and allowing. Because if you try to force self-inquiry, you set up an inner conflict. But if there's if the self-inquiry really matures into a deep curiosity about the nature of being itself, the challenging of assumptions becomes fun and engaging. So there's not an objective out there to acquire something. There's only this deep, intense, obsessive desire to know the truth of your own being. And that's the spirit in which to engage the inquiry, and then the inquiry will operate unhindered, and you'll find it's really not that hard. And so happy to be your second dad, other son, which is why we ultimately, control is just an appearance, as well as no control is simply other appearances. Don't focus only on one side. Realize everything is two-sided and a dualistic illusion. Just my 2 cents. Yes, no, very good 2 cents. I'd actually say $2 worth. That's, I mean, it's perfect. The middle way, as Buddha taught, is this flow between the opposites. The mind, where we normally approach things, is we're trying to, which side is right so I can hold and be on the right side. Neither side is right. They all flow and are only defined in terms of each other. So the actual place to be is the place that can flow between them, because sometimes control is what's needed. Sometimes absence of control is what's needed. But you'll find that it just flows by itself, and you're not actually doing it, but you're harmonizing with it. You are flowing with life, in which you are the middle way. You are empty yourself. You've not taken a side. You've not taken a position. You stand without an agenda. And if you stand without an agenda, you become the most powerful influence in the moment, because you are simply present. You're not there trying to make something happen. You are allowing that. You are the space in which the very best can happen. Shanti, such a great satsang. Heard it all before. However, sometimes certain things just suddenly recognize. Thanks for being here. With gratitude and love from Melbourne, Australia. Yes. Um, it's all been said before. I heard it, didn't get it, heard it, didn't get it, finally went, oh, I get it. So yes, it's all been said before. And you know, that's why there's a bunch of different teachers, and the way teachers teach is different over time, and different things happen, different modes of expression and the like. Um, because it comes in a different direction. You may hear something from me, and then you may hear something from Muji, and then you may hear something from Rupert Spira. Whatever it is you need in the moment is being drawn to you. And so this is how it works. You hear it over and over again, and then suddenly something arises inside of you that understands. It isn't that you suddenly understand. It's the you that didn't understand disappears, and the you that does understand, that recognizes itself in what is said, appears. And it's simply your devotion, your love of it, you keep coming back to it, your instinctive knowing that there's something, that the truth is there and that I want it, is what eventually causes the faults to fall away and the truth to reveal itself. That's how it works. Helen says, when we are born, does the egoic mind kick in straight away? No, it does not. It comes much later. The egoic mind has nothing, there's no place for it to hold on to, because when we're first born, there's no forms, nothing has meaning, nothing has, everything is just happening. It's undifferentiated consciousness, like with a dog, right? Or some other animal, undifferentiated consciousness. They don't have that, right? So there's nothing for an ego to have on. Plus, they do not have that capacity. As we develop, and the nervous system is simply falling into patterns to conform itself to environment. You know, we are like water, right? We conform ourselves to whatever the shape of the container that we're poured into. So the same water, the water gets put into a family unit. That family unit has certain definitions and the like. And so the little nervous system, the little energy system is simply shaping itself to fit safely in this environment and get what it needs. So that's the form that it becomes. As the nervous system develops and a sense of self emerges, it identifies with the form that has been shaped simply by the container it's in. And so it believes itself to be that form. It cannot see that it is simply within the container. It sees itself separate from the container, not realizing it is simply responding to the container, and that it is not that. And then it actually fears awakening, because it fears the container breaking, because I'm just a puddle, I'm not anything, right? But the fact you're not anything. Water has no shape. It takes the shape of whatever it's put in. This is really how it works. And so the shape has already been formed when the sense of self begins to emerge, and it identifies with that shape. It identifies with that form and thinks, I am that. And that will stick until, of course, you begin to expose to this, to satsang, and you realize, no, that's not what you are. And that water doesn't have a shape, nor does it need one, but it has this incredible power to assume whatever form it needs. That's what it means to be in a situation without an agenda, to be empty. You're empty of any concrete definition of who you are, which means you can be anything. This is what gives you flexibility. This is what gives you strength. This is what gives you the ability to show up in any situation. It's what makes you fearless, because nothing really binds you. Temporarily, you assume this form, you do it, you leave it. And the same thing is actually true. This is the same energy that brought the whole body together in the first place. So that and that's really all it is. The body is just this particular conditioning laid on top of the responses, the reaction to the environment, but you're the water that has never been contained by any of it. But the thought, I am the body, I am this form, is all there is to the ego. Once you see that it's not true, the ego's days are numbered. Because ego is not a thing, it is simply the belief, the idea that I am this form. And when that idea takes root, it begins to say, I'm not that, I'm just this. I can't be this, I can only be this. This is what I am. And it gets very attached to that form. And that's where attachments and aversions come from, and the like. Let's see, the other son. Yeah, you are saying also that it's all happening, control and no control. But you can initiate a thought, look at an object and pick it up. Isn't that your experience? Yeah, you can. Yeah, I can look at my hand, right? But I didn't make up the word hand, right? What I encourage you to do is to just not try to bring this to some kind of conceptual answer. Oh, okay, there's no such thing as a, there is no free will, there is no choice. Because you can't get rid of the idea of free will and choice without getting rid of the idea of the chooser. It's not the choice that I'm concerned about, because there are choosing thoughts, right? There's a moment pops up and I can go this way or this way, and a thought goes, I'm going this way, and off you go, right? And it's after that happens, though, that the thought comes up, says, I made a choice, right? So the choice came first. So it's not that there aren't choosing thoughts. Clearly there's preferring thoughts. There's deciding thoughts, right? There's all sorts of different qualities of thoughts. That's not where we're looking. What we're looking for is the chooser. Is there a chooser, or is there just a choosing thought? Find the chooser. That's the Buddha made very clear that the cure for suffering was not a changing of the conditions, but to see that there was no sufferer. That we have to imagine a sufferer in order for any circumstance to generate suffering. Without a sufferer, no circumstance has suffering in it. No circumstance has any meaning whatsoever. It's just happening. So put your attention on, ask yourself the question, and this is the inquiry: can I find the chooser? And, well, I'm the chooser. Well, okay, but wait a minute. If I'm the chooser, that would mean that when the chooser comes and gone, because the chooser is not always there, it's just kind of going along, that I would be gone too. Okay, so I'm not essentially the chooser. That's not what I am. There's a sense of choosing thoughts, but they come and go and change. Next time I'll choose something else. So then what am I? What is there before, during, and after the choice is happening? Put your attention there to really try to discover what that is. That's the inquiry. We're trying to find out, is this idea I have about myself actually who I am? That is non-dual inquiry. M. Jones says, and you say something directly to the I am. A lot of what you're saying seems to be food for the mind about the I am. Well, no, it's not food for the mind. I would more accurately say is that it's pointers to consciousness. It's pointers to the sense of I am that is identified with form. The I am is simply the sense of being. It is who is hearing my words right now. It is that simple. And were it not for all of our associations and identifications, I wouldn't have to say very much at all. But because there is so much identification, we have to just dismantle wherever anybody happens to be. And yes, everything I'm saying, your mind is going to want to pick it up and turn it into a concept, which is why you'll hear me say over and over and over again, go back and look for yourself. Keep looking, keep checking. We're dismantling our beliefs about ourselves. We're seeing them as beliefs. The end being, who am I? Not who am I to be a really good concept of who I am, but the direct, visceral, concrete, undoubted realization of who I am. I am that I am. Exactly what God said to Moses. I am that I am. You are that sense of being. That I am that announced itself, I am that I am, and Moses got was his real self, is the same I am that is speaking to you. The same I am that is hearing my words. How could it not be? It's the sense I am. What can know the I am except that which is? Something else, the mirror, the image in the mirror does not know you. I see my hand does not see me. There's a meditation that I have here on YouTube called Meditating on the Meditator, which I think would speak directly to what you're talking about, Em. The deepest meditation is simply turning your attention completely away from every object and simply abiding in that sense of I am. That is vichara. That is the Sanskrit word which means self-abiding. That's the essence of what Ramana Maharshi taught, the self-inquiry and self-abiding. Abiding as that. You are that. If that seems true to you, if that feels true to you, then you can forget everything else that I've said. Everything else, forget. It's not meant for you. Just go to that sense of I am and stay there. Self-abiding. Abide in that sense of I am until every idea that you are something else just falls away from you. That may be the practice for you. Does that help? That touched me. I like that. Thank you. Soundscape Central. Oh, here's another simple one for you. G, explain infinity. Oh yeah, no problem. Then I'll have lunch. Infinity is now, right? Also, I retracted some question, but wanted to add more text to it. Sorry. It's okay. It always gets my curiosity. It's retracted. What was he saying? Anyway, infinity. I love the mind makes up words to make it feel as if it understands. How do you understand infinity? It's infinite. You can't. That's the point. But infinity, see, we want to approach infinity from the point of view of infinite space. We want to see it as an object of some sort. Same thing with eternity. We want to see it as infinite time. But neither of those is true, because the only thing you ever actually experience is here and now. That's it. That's all you ever know. And so there's a nice idea of infinity. But what it would have to mean is simply that this now is always now. Right? I mean, the now you're experiencing right now, is it different than the one you're experiencing now? We have a whole series of nows going on. I mean, that's the idea of time, right? Series events. Is the now you were experiencing 2 weeks ago a different now than now? So this now hasn't moved. It hasn't changed. It hasn't gone anywhere. That's infinity. That's eternity. Right? Timeless, spaceless. Is there any place you could be that wouldn't be now or here? Right? It's all we know. So this here and now is an infinite moment. It is dimensionless. It is not something that expands in all directions or in space and time. It is outside of space and time. And isn't it interesting that that which is outside of space and time is known by you? Which means whatever you are is outside of space and time. Aware of space and time, witnessing space and time. But if you can witness the timelessness of now, it means you are timeless. Has to be. Mark White says, I love my family so much, but I find it difficult to express my love to them. I find it hard just saying I love you to them. I can talk with love for them when I'm with strangers. It's confusing, GP. Yeah, it could be. What I'm hearing in your voice, well, that's interesting. Sometimes we get planes over here we don't normally get. The Boeing plant is not that far from here, and so there's like every now and then some big planes come in because it's not near a major airport. So sorry if that got a little noisy there for a second. I'm hearing loud and clear that you really do love your family, but something inhibits you from expressing it to them. Could be a lot of reasons for that, my friend. A lot of, let me shut the window here. Noisy out there. A lot of things can happen in childhood that inhibit our capacity. I mean, you might have been really expressive of your love to them at one point, and got hurt in some way, or got diminished, or didn't get accepted. And so your little nervous system really got the message loud and clear that expressing it wasn't safe. Right? So just say, okay, I get it. Right? Don't beat yourself up. Don't feel bad about yourself. Don't let the mind turn this into a story about you that makes you less than in some way, because you're not less than. Something happened that inhibited our very natural capacity to express love. Look at children. They just can't help. If they feel love, they tell you I love you. They hug you. They come with me. I mean, they can get the most grizzly old guy to get down on the floor and pretend they're a choo-choo train, right? So that is our nature. And so you can tell it takes a great deal to cut that off, to make it feel as if that isn't safe. And then make up all sorts of stories about how it's your fault and that you're not very expressive and all of that kind of stuff. All of that is nonsense, right? Something happened, something drove home a message, an energetic assumption into the nervous system that to express your love was not safe with them. In other places, it's okay, it can come out, which is an indication that you actually feel it. So just be with that. Don't try to make it go away. Don't try to fight it. Certainly don't condemn yourself. But just notice when you're with them and the feeling of affection there, and then a resistance to expressing it is there, just breathe, take them both in, say, I get it. Okay, there it is. All right. Just and surrender to it. Add nothing to it except to see it. See, if you fight with it, you create a conflict with it. And of course, it will win the conflict because that, the defensive mechanism got created in reaction to conflict. Right? So it knows how to defend itself against whatever you do. So it's useless anyway. So just be with it. Adopt this place inside that I call the peacemaker, where you're not taking sides. On one side, there is a desire to express yourself freely. On the other side, there's a defensive mechanism that doesn't feel it's safe to do so. That's all that's happening. And you're not responsible for either one of those. You didn't create them. So you get the wonderful opportunity to simply be with both, right? And if you are totally with both, with no preference for either, you don't take sides, you simply recognize what's happening. Of course, it's my natural desire to express love. And of course, it is the natural desire of the system to protect me when I get hurt. So it doesn't want me to get hurt. It doesn't want me to be rejected. And it doesn't know whether it's safe and now for me or not. And you could even have a conversation, say, look, can we try? Maybe it is safe now. Maybe it's not. But it's okay. If you don't want to, that's fine. Right? So you're not forcing anything. You're reconciling. I call it inner reconciliation. You are trying to reconcile these two powerful, unmovable forces, right? And having no preference whatsoever for how it works out. You have no agenda. Just let go of whether you want it to happen or don't want it to happen. And just watch what happens when you bring that level of love and acceptance to the system. Just watch what happens and let me know. I think you're going to be surprised. At a bare minimum, you will no longer feel confused. You will feel quite peaceful about it. And whichever way it goes will be okay with you. What if there's some mistrust of life when there's no control? Well, there'll be a lot of distrust in life, mistrust of life when there's no control. We created the illusion of control because we didn't trust life. And, with good reason. When you're a little kid, you have no control. You are completely at the mercy of your parents and caregivers and teachers and that sort of thing, who never are perfect. They never make it totally safe for you. So there's this idea, well, I'm going to control what I can, but it doesn't actually work because it assumes that you have a power that you don't actually have. We are vulnerable. That is the fact. The human body, human mind, human heart is vulnerable. The I am is not, but our experience of life is that, and that vulnerability is part of what makes it delicious and juicy and fun and interesting and engaging and passionate and curious and everything else. So as we learn to let go of the egoic mind, we are simultaneously letting go of control. Control is a function of the egoic mind. Most people want to they want to, okay, I'm going to let go of control and be free, but they don't realize that they're still holding on to the essence of the control, which is the egoic mind. Put all your attention, don't worry about control and not control. Put your attention on the one you think you are. The egoic mind wants control and is terrified to not have it. It has no faith in life whatsoever. The nature of the ego is resistance. That's what it is. The ego is nothing but a word for the functioning of resistance. And the resistance is the defensive mechanism in the body, in the nervous system, that is anticipating something hurting it. That's all it is. It's quite a robotic thing going on, and we project upon it a sense of identity that only belongs to consciousness, and voila, you have what appears to be a self-functioning egoic being. There's nobody there. There's nobody there. There's just these reactive patterns. And so I bring attention back once again to, who are you? You are the one that is aware of those patterns. You couldn't see them. You couldn't see them before. They were just you. You didn't realize that they were patterns. You thought they were you. So little by little, you come out of it, oh my God, that's not me. It's this pattern going on in the nervous system. And immediately, there's a little bit, there's a little more space. Still coughing a bit. A little more space. There's a little more room to move. There's a little more you can do, right? So at the heart of all of it is not somebody who is trying to improve themselves. It is a belief in somebody that you are actually not. And that belief has simply arisen. And my mission here is to turn your attention back to what is, because from there comes the actual truth of your being. That sense of I am is what you actually are. It is from there that all of this is being witnessed. And we're simply peeling back the illusion of thinking we were anything else. And that's why it feels good when it happens, because you're simply feeling the way you actually feel. So, focus on the else. So therefore, even if it appears you choose something to pick up, doesn't mean you're also choosing not pick up something. I'll let those guys just continue to talk it out. Sorry for posting too much GP. You can ignore this. It's very interesting. But I'll let you guys do your thing, because I pretty much said as much on the subject as I want to say. Love that analogy of a puddle. Yeah, yes, that's a good one, right? That's the fear. Oh no, you break this container. That's why we protect our boundaries so much. We protect our sense of ego. We'll get in a fight with somebody, over defending who we are. I mean, and it expands to communities, nations, right? Nations are at war with one another because I'm American, I'm a French, I'm Israeli, I'm an Arab. It's irrational. I mean, it's just totally irrational. It's completely made up. But I am that. And so I'm going to fight for you. You just, for what? For nothing, for an illusion, for a delusion. Right? Because we're not that. It's just stuff made up. And that's the way the ego does, but it doesn't want to let go of it. It's so afraid. Well, who will I be if I'm not that? You'll be who you actually are. Duh. You won't be what you think you are. You'll be what you really are. And that what you really are is infinite. It has no limits on it. It is not confined anywhere. That's something to, this is not something you can just kind of like push in somebody's face. It has to be discovered. And the energy for discovering it comes when there's sufficient suffering. And as we very well know, the world is in the midst of a time of unparalleled suffering, which means that the awakening is near. The time is nigh. The end of the world is nigh, which simply means the end of the belief in a separate self. AK says, if the true I, that I am, is without limit, then why am I trapped in this body vessel? Because you believe yourself to be. Simple as that. There's a thought, I am trapped. To whom is that thought, I am trapped, appearing? Is the one to whom it is appearing, are they trapped? If you are trapped, if I am trapped in the body, I'm trapped in the body all the time. Is that feeling of being trapped there all the time? Well, then it's not essentially what you are. And if the thought I am trapped in the body never occurred to you, would you be trapped in the body? You are trapped by a thought, by a belief. You are not actually trapped. You believe yourself to be trapped and so feel trapped. And so you see, it's real. No, it isn't. It is self-created. It is a projection of the mind. It is a dream. It is an illusion. It's a felt illusion. It's not just an imaginary thing. It is felt in the entire body. But that which is aware of the thought, I am trapped, is not trapped in that thought, is it? You don't have that one thought. You have lots of thoughts going through your mind, going through the mind. All sorts of thoughts going in and out and out. So you're not trapped in any of them unless this thought pops up and you believe it that says, I'm trapped. You're not. Even if you believe it and feel it, you're still not. The truth is true whether you believe it or not. But what you believe will determine what you experience. And then you'll look at your experience and say, see, it's true. And I go, no, it's not. You are simply experiencing what you believe. So you're not trapped in this body vessel. You're not. Drop that thought and watch what happens. Watch the feeling. See through it. Challenge it the way I'm doing it right now. Is that sense I am actually trapped in this body? Or is that just a belief that I've projected on it? Does that mean I could be free of this body right now? Yes. That's what they mean by dying before you die. Shanti. Love the puddle analogy too. Made me laugh out loud. Those GP said, we're not even a puddle. We can't be anything seen or described. We just stay as I am, full stop, without trying with mind. Yeah. Yeah, very good. Yes. Very, yeah. And what was the puddle analogy? Well, I was talking about that our nature is like water and it just takes whatever the shape the container is that it's in. But then the egoic mind is that belief that that is actually what I am. I am this shape of the container. It forgets about the container, right? It's not a container, it's me, right? And then somebody comes along who wants to break out the container, and it's scared to death. Break the container. Well, what am I? I'm just a puddle. No definition, no form. I'm lost, right? So that's the egoic fear of having the egoic mind challenged. Because, well, then who am I? I'm just this big puddle, right? Or muddy puddle, if you like. So that was the analogy. So we're not really even the puddle, right? The puddle is an analogy, and it's a good analogy because it's formless, right? Notice even the puddle is just taking whatever shape. You know, if you break the container and that water spills out, it's just going to take whatever shape. It's going to roll around the carpet, or it's going to, you know, it's going to pool up in any dips in the floor, or it's going to soak into the ground. It's just going to change shape. That's all. But the water remains the water. Nothing about it is actually changed. The essence of it cannot possibly be changed. And that essence is what you actually are. That is the I am. The I am is the essence of everything. It is the source. It is that from which everything draws its impermanent, temporary existence. The sense of it existing at all is a reflection of the I am. Just like the moon doesn't generate any light, yet we write poetry about it. We fall in love under it. You know, it's like grabs our attention, but there's nothing there. All of its light is being reflected somewhere else. And at night, you can't even see where it's coming from. So it looks like the moon is illuminating us, and it's not. It's the sun. Everything you experience is not shining by its own light. It is not self-existent. It is the light that you experience is every single object, every person, every place, every being, every object, everything is the reflected light of the I am, which is why you can say it doesn't actually, it certainly doesn't limit the I am, right? The sun isn't hardly limited by the moon. It doesn't, oh God, oh my light's getting absorbed by the moon. Give me back my light. I mean, it doesn't do that. It has an infinite amount of it. It just keeps coming, just keeps coming. So it's completely uncontained. Even though every single form borrows from it, it remains inexhaustible. It never gets used up. So that's a little more about that particular analogy, and understanding that no form is self-existent. Every form is a reflection of the I am. So it doesn't mean there's the I am and all this other illusory stuff. The illusion is only believing that it is itself something and not the reflection. If we believe that the moon is producing the light that I'm seeing, I am in an illusion, even though that's what it looks like, right? But when the illusion is corrected, it doesn't mean the moon gets dark or something or bright. It's exactly the same. But now we see that it is not the source of the light. The same with every object around us. Every quality, every characteristic, color, shade, every attribute that we attribute to the object is not in the object. It is in the I am that is perceiving the object. In fact, it is the I am perceiving itself. How does that sound? So Vivek Natarajan, there is no rebirth means there is no longer the thought of the doer anymore. The whole idea of actually, yes. Yeah, let me keep it simple. Yes. Right. When there's no thought of a doer, then life is just happening. Then even though you may experience 100 bodies, there's no sense of a rebirth because you're just this, you're the same. You're not being born or being born. Things are appearing or disappearing to you. Completely different. You are not entering into a body. A body is appearing in front of you, within you. And of course, that's going to happen forever. There's forever forms taking place. That's the nature of the I am, is to generate forms of self-expression, just like the light of the sun reflects on the moon. That's its nature. And without that light, the moon would there would be no moon. We wouldn't even see this. We couldn't even, in the dark, we couldn't even see a rock there. Nothing would be there. Right? So it illuminates, and suddenly it gives life, it gives being to the moon. And so we begin to see that you've never been reborn. You have always been you. You've always been this consciousness. And the sense of being a form, being limited to a form, has come and gone, but it's never actually been you. That's the real meaning of the end of rebirth. M. Jones says, thank you, G. Oh, good. I guess I got it right. Good. AK 11020, paraphrasing, that the I consciousness is like water. It takes the form, shape of the vessel that it's poured into. A dog or a child's consciousness is unformed, a bit like a puddle on the group. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, they are essentially unformed and are simply conforming themselves, but are not limited to the environment in which it is. So consciousness gets born as a dog's body, the same consciousness that's this body, but it's simply in that form. Consciousness is all there is, right? So consciousness, this form, consciousness, your form, and everybody else's form. But the consciousness itself remains formless. It's like water. It's formless. What's the shape of water? Whatever you pour it in. What's the shape of a cartoon cat? Whatever container you stick it in, right? Cartoon cats act exactly like water. I don't know why it's always the cats, but it is. Like a puddle on the ground. Yeah. But then the analogy eventually falls apart, because what we're talking about is the infinite substance of everything. And unlike the manifest energy of consciousness conforms itself to its environment, but the strangeness of it is that the environment itself is also just conformed consciousness. Right? It's not fixed. It's not external. The consciousness got poured into it. That too is a form that is consciousness that has been conformed into something. Just like the energy of water is one form of energy, but the glass into which you pour it is just another form of energy. It's a different conformance of exactly the same thing. That essential energy, that's all it is this essential energy forming, making forms. And so you can see that everything falls into that category. Everything ends up actually being fluid. Water is just a really great metaphor for the way that we're talking about it. Let me see how many we got left here. Oh, good Lord. Wow. Let's see. Let's see. Mark says, that's very helpful. It's really going to help me. I feel a big relief inside of me. Thanks, GP. God bless. Oh, you're very welcome, Mark. Yeah. That feeling of relief always happens when we step out of taking a position. When we stop siding one thing or another, we end conflict, and that's where the relief comes from. That's the open door to the end of suffering. The end of suffering is the absence of contact, of conflict. And that's attained when we're no longer identified with one side or another. In other words, there's no sufferer anymore. There's no creator of conflict. And so these are simply the energies of life, right? And without you taking sides, they will eventually do this because that's their nature. The nature of life is harmonious unless something kind of, interjects in the middle and kind of and musses it all up. Whew, I'm getting a little tired here, folks. Oh, wow, 3:03. I've been at it 2 hours. Yeah, that's fun. I am looking forward to doing these live with the live audience at some point. And anybody out there wants to help me, and I have somebody else working with me, I'd like to maybe organize some events maybe in your town. Please get in touch with me. You can just send an email to support@masterheartinstitute.com, or just, well, don't stick it in the comments here. I may not see it. So yeah, send it support@masterheartinstitute.com if any of you want to, especially if you have any experience in this kind of thing, or are able to, maybe put together some group in your town. I'm really wanting to do to get out of the virtual world and into the touchy-feely world of real human beings. So anybody who thinks they might be able to help with that, please let me know. Also, I do have a Patreon account for those of you who have an extra $1 a month to spare. Just go to patreon.com/GP Walsh. Really helps me offset the cost, and will eventually allow me to get an editor so I don't have to do all this myself. Also like to be able to take the satsangs and convert them over to take the audio out and use them for a podcast so they can get out that way. So anybody have any kind of experience in any of those areas that they might like to help me out, or to donate so I can hire somebody to do it. I will be putting together some kind of a button for folks to make a one-time donation if you'd prefer to do that. So let's see. Let me look over the questions here. Let's see what we got. See what I can if I can sum these all up, because I am kind of running out of steam, and so I need to start bringing it to a close. And there's still quite a few questions here. Let me take this one. How does one live in a duality world but stay in the I am or non-duality state? The more I stay in the I am. Well, first off, move away from the idea that you are staying in the I am, right? Because what you've done is create the very duality you're talking about. There's the I am, and then there's me, right? Okay, well then, who are you? At that point, I cease to be interested in the I am, and I become really interested in you. Well then, who are you? What you're going to see is that the I am and you are the same. That is what you are. Are you not? Is it not you who is hearing me right now? Well then, you are consciousness. You and conscious are not two. So the I am is your sense, is your sense. You know, the language is dualistic. So I say it's your sense of existing as if you're something else. It's actually the I am's own sense of existing. The sense of I am is the I am knowing itself. The sense of there being a you knowing the I am is an illusion. That is the thought. Now, start there so that you are the I am. And if you are the I am, the duality of the world will begin to disappear because it isn't dualistic. It is only yourself. It is the appearance of you. There's no duality between me and my reflection in the mirror. It is an absolute replica. Imagine a 3D, fully holographic mirror reflecting you. That's what the universe is. But the you I'm referring to is not just this body, this one character. The you I'm referring to is the one I am. The same one that showed Moses that that's who he was. The same one that Christ referring to when he said, I and my Father are one. It is the I am. Before Abraham was, I am. And so you don't need to worry about living in the world, because the very fact that you say there's me and then there's the world, you have created the duality you're trying to overcome. And of course, you'll never do it. Right? Come to know who you are as the I am and see if the world even exists anymore. I mean, of course, all of this stuff all experience will still be happening, but you won't see it any longer as a world out there and me here. You will see this unity. And at that point, you won't have to ask, how do you live in it? I mean, how do you live in yourself? You just live in it because it's you. And you don't have to ask, how do I live as me? Oh, you are you. Oh, okay, thanks. It's that simple. So remove the sense of duality from yourself. You are not, there's not you and the I am. There is only the I am. LFC Dalek says, Dalek. Hi, GP. Thanks as always for your wonderful explanations. My question is in regards motivation. I understand that everything we generally do is the ego's pursuit of happiness or wholeness. But through inquiry, I realize I am complete. I did not need to seek the happiness in objects, as I am the happiness. Trouble is, I talk myself out of doing things, as I know I can already feel the happiness without pursuing things. Is this common, as the ego does feel it is missing out and not living life fully? Thanks for your help and hope that makes sense. Yeah, it's very common. It's very common. As we begin to realize that the happiness isn't in the objects, yes, a huge fundamental motivation of human behavior, it begins to dissipate. And of course, when that happens, you go, well, what do I do now? I mean, all of your energy has been directed at acquiring happiness. The identity is nothing but you trying to acquire happiness, a version of yourself seeking happiness. And happiness exists in objects, right? I get this, then I mean, you can go through the litany of all of the things that claim to hold happiness, and then we go after them. When you discover that the happiness isn't in those things, the entire tenor and habitual patterns of your life become useless anymore. They become, it's like, what do I do now? Yeah, it is a grade A world-class identity crisis, because all of this energy has been heading in that direction. What I recommend people to do is live life, do what you like. Meet your responsibilities. Don't Don't arbitrarily just start throwing things away. Let this flower grow. Believe me, this energy will replace all the rest of it. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about, am I going to be stuck? None of that's going to happen, because this energy is orders of magnitude more intelligent. Remember, it's actually running the show. Right? So you are simply now kind of surrendering to what actually is. And the entire nervous system will begin to conform to it, will begin to play by it, will begin to dance to that tune. And it'll happen very naturally and very easily. So don't try to make dramatic shifts. Just meet your responsibilities until you don't need, until those responsibilities fall away from you. Just do what you like, right? Not harming, just do what you like and watch. You'll notice there'll be shifts in what you like and what you don't like. That will begin to shift. Things that you used to enjoy, they'll fall away. New things will arise. And life will simply begin to reconform itself to who you really are. So, the idea, I'm going to talk myself out of doing things, don't do that. Follow that impulse, but do it now with a level of awareness that no matter what you do, it's not going to bring you happiness. However, everything you do has the potential for you to experience the manifestation of happiness. In other words, the object will not be giving you happiness, you'll be giving it happiness. It will begin to shine with your energy. I told the story about me a long, long time ago, very early after my first major awakening, working in the midnight shift at a 7-Eleven in Barrington, Illinois, in winter, middle of winter, dead winter. My ex-wife had run off in the middle of the night with my 2 kids on Christmas. I was alone. I'm working this dumbass job, for a couple bucks an hour in the middle of the night, in a 7-Eleven of all places, a convenience store, right? Not the most wonderful place to be in the middle of the night with, people going through it. And I'm just grumble. Right? My favorite, what the hell? What happened? I'm talking to God one day, and the next day I'm mopping the floors, in the middle of winter. Like, you mop the floor and 2 people walk in, you got to mop it again. I mean, it's hopeless. And as I'm sitting there just really grousing, and I'm just bitter and confused and bewildered, what the hell's happened in my life? It wasn't supposed to be like this. And I was just thinking, God, I've got no value. I have no dignity. And the moment I said that word dignity, something just popped in my mind. And that familiar voice says, you don't have dignity, you are dignity. And suddenly I realized that I had been trying to get a sense of value, a sense of dignity out of what I was doing. And I suddenly realized that it wasn't in what I was doing, it was in me. And that everything I did became dignified because I did it. I'll tell you, that 7-Eleven just shined that night. It was just sparkling. It was so clean. And it was amazing when that happened, just the series of events, weeks. There was one more crisis that took place. Afterwards, everything just started to change. My entire world started to change. And all of a sudden I was getting jobs that were good, jobs that were progressive. The one job where I learned how to use computers. 3 years later, I'm in business for myself. I've got like 4 times the amount of money that I was having, and all of a sudden, like, I'm designing computer systems for world-class companies. In an incredibly short period of time. I can pinpoint that moment was the turning point when I realized, when I really took inside, that nothing out there could give me what appeared to be missing, because it wasn't missing. And the end result was, I'm sitting here now talking to you. So it's something to really take to heart. And it's something you're not going to hear a lot of support for. Everybody, oh, no. Yeah. Happiness within. Really not great. Right. Let me get my yoga pants now. We're going to go. Right. I mean, this is real. Okay. Take it in and make it real. bring it. It isn't out there. But don't let it say, oh, okay. Let that truth transform the quality and character of your experience. Don't try to do it arbitrarily. If you find yourself completely demotivated, well, do what you have to do, and then give yourself some time to rediscover life from this new perspective. That's the most common advice I can give you, my friend. Ellen says, have to go, GP. Thanks to the Satsang, I've absorbed more today, and it seems to process all in its own good time. Very good. Excellent. I am to I am. From I am to I am. Thanks. Yeah, from Shanti. Thank you and cheers. When I was sick, someone died. My mom said life goes on. I thought, but I create life. So if I die, how can life go when I die? So who dreams people when I die? You do. Yeah. Don't worry about death. There's no more to death than waking up from a dream in the morning and it was a dream, right? I mean, it's it's kind of hard for our egos to accept. Wait, my life means nothing? No, your life means a great deal. It just doesn't mean what you think it means. The meaning of life is right here, right now. The exchange we have, a moment of intimacy, a moment of honesty, a moment of tenderness, a moment of love, a moment of compassion. That moment is the meaning. It's nothing but a flow of the unfoldment and the revelation of love. That is the meaning of every moment. And if that's the case, it doesn't matter what happens after you die, because you're living now, and you'll find that love is immortal. And he says, oh, wait, I know. I do. Yay. Oh, you're going to answer the question. Yeah. Oops. Oh, that's right. I do. Thank you for the answer, GP. Much appreciated. Hold on to what you've explained. Great. Thank you, AK. Amazing stream. Oh, thank you. I wish I was as articulate as GP. Oh, thank you very much. It's great. It's great to hear. Yeah. Just the deeper the understanding goes, the easier it is to find the words for it. So just don't worry about finding words. Just keep clarifying, keep clarifying, keep clarifying, keep clarifying. And eventually you'll find the words that are the perfect expression for you. 8K says, agree 100%. Some great insights and explanations. Thank you all. That's great advice. Thanks so much for that. Bringing that happiness and awareness wherever you go. Yeah, that's right. Everybody shines by the same light, and everybody is drawn. When you see it and you know it and you are it, everybody's drawn to it. Shanti, thanks for sharing your story. It helps to see someone else's story. Scenery is different, but same as mine. So hope here. Yeah, the scenery is different, but the story is always the same. Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. As always, it is just such an honor to be able to spend my Sunday afternoons with you. It's just such an utter delight. Thank you for your encouragement. Thank you for the depth of your questions. And most of all, thank you for your relentless seeking to truly understand who you are and share that with the world. Thank you all. Namaste.